In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Well, let me tell you about a man named Randall Rhodes. He was born and raised in the North, but he loved the Southern way of life, and he'd fight to the death for the Southern cause. He marched on down to the fields of cotton, where he met up with General Mosby's gray ghost. The general gave Randall the rank of colonel so he could fight with the brave men in gray. Now Colonel Randall Rhodes fights the Bonnie Blue flag, and that's what Colonel Randall Rhodes brings. He brought fire, he brought freedom, he brought love, he brought a war. And he said, to hell with the stars and stripes, I'm fighting for the stars and bars. And to hell with your war of aggression, I'm fighting for the war of independence. And he'd march on down to the fields of cotton for a southern nation. And the gray ghost fights for the Bonnie Blue flag, and that's what Colonel Randall Rhodes brings. He brought fire, he brought freedom, he brought love, he brought war. And he said, to hell with the stars and stripes, I'm fighting for the stars and bars. And to hell with your war of aggression, I'm fighting for the war of independence.
Yes, indeedy. Fighting for our freedom, for our families, for our nation. I am joined here by a new friend of mine. Been friends a few months, but a phenomenal guy, fantastic author, historian, Chris Edwards, who also goes by James Chris Edwards, but he prefers Chris. He is the author of, and don't mind my cat, she decided to join us here. Author of 5 books concerning Colonel William Clark Quantrill. I've read 2 of them so far, Volume 1 and Volume 3. Don't ask why I got Volume 3 in there before Volume 2, but I did. But here it is, William Quantrill. And he broke, I'm going to ask him why, but he broke the book down into 3 different sections, years, going on like years. So this one here is from his beginning of his actions with the South to year 1862. Then William, Volume 2, okay, it's a different picture, a older picture of him. This is year 1863 to 1865. And Volume 3, I don't know why it doesn't say Volume 3, but it doesn't. But this is actually the last of the tri-series. And this is the end of his life. It's where he's fighting, and eventually he gets caught. The next broadcast I'll be doing with Chris is going to be Volume 2. But this one here is a very thin book. It's called The Suppressed Evidence. I'm going to ask him a couple of questions about this tonight, but I haven't broke the back of it yet, so it's still brand new. I can only imagine what's in here is evidence as to what William Quantrill did during his life with the Confederate military. And then last but certainly not least is Quantrill's Revenge. On my broadcast, I've been describing this as if you go on vacation and you want to know where all the highlights are of the tour, you buy a tour guide map. So this book here is like 500 pages. I'm sorry, I lied. It's like 350 pages, but it's like a step by step of his invasion of Kansas. So this is going to take me probably 2 months to read. So this will be the last broadcast. Hopefully, he has something else in the works. I don't know. But Chris Edwards, please tell the folks, first off, your background. I know we did it before, but it's been a couple of weeks. Tell the people your background and then why you got into Quantrill as opposed to General Lee or some of the other very famous generals, and why him?
Right. Well, thank you for permitting me to be on your show. This is really fantastic. Um, so, yes, it was back in 1978. I was on the road with a rock band, and I just figured after a couple of years of that it wasn't good for my physical or mental health. And so I went home, but I had no plans. I had no idea what I was going to do. Uh, So my mother, bless her heart, she gave me a book to read, and it was called Jesse James Was His Name by William Settle. And so I read that, and that introduced me to Frank and Jesse, of course. But then I also found out that Frank and Jesse were guerrillas who fought with Quantrill. And frankly, I was probably 24, 25. I didn't even know there was a Civil War in Missouri at that point. So that was a new thing for me. So I read um, I read Conley's book because he wrote quote unquote the Bible about William Clark Quantrill, and I guess for the next 10 or 15 years I believed every word that he wrote, and subsequent authors too, like Castile and things like that. And then after a while, I just kind of like I don't, this just doesn't seem to fit very well. It's too extremes. He's very very brave, or he's very very a coward, or so in graduate school, I got into graduate school when I was in my 50s, and there was a course there called historiography, which is the history of how history is written. And in that particular case, and it's all this historiography tells you, in essence, don't believe anything you read anymore because we're all biased. But it also said that if you really want to find out what the truth is, you need to go back to the primary sources. So I did that. So I went to Kansas State Historical Society, Missouri State Historical Society, and all the museums in Kansas and Missouri and some other places, Kentucky, and read everything I could. And then I realized that there was information that was not being conveyed to the public, that it looked well, not look well, it looked like that they were just cherry picking. And so, because we know that the victors write the history, certainly, they were cherry picking everything that was negative about him, but they weren't saying anything that was that was complimentary. So I went through William Conley's um, notes at the Kansas State Historical Society. So most of that information comes from Box 13 of the William Conley collection at the Kansas State Historical Society, which tells me he had the information, but he just didn't want anybody to know about it. And I don't know why Castile and subsequent authors didn't go there. I guess all they did was just use the model that Conley had used and the same quotes and everything. So clearly, they either didn't go to do any research at all, or they, like Conley, just cherry picked the information that they wanted. So I said, this just isn't right from a historical point of view. So anyway, I decided I was going to do something about it. Let me say, too, that while we're on the book thing, why I did volume one, volume two, it was pretty innocent. I just got tired. It's not easy writing a book, and I'm not the most organized guy in the world, but after volume one, I was just like burnt to a crisp, and I had those other books too, you know. So I was like, oh, I need a break. So I just broke, and I thought, well, you know, I could probably go ahead and submit this and then finish it up a little bit later. So that's exactly what I did. So there's no secret there. It was.
So which book was actually the first one, the volume one, or the one that doesn't have any volume titled on the book?
Well, in truth, the first book I wrote was What Really Happened, Quantrill's Raid on Lawrence, Kansas. And I'll tell you why. Again, I was in graduate school, and my advisor, my woke advisor, I told her I had a lot of this information, and she suggested that, well, don't do the whole thing like everybody else does. Just pick out the part that you really want to stress to the public and just write it about that. So that's when I just said, okay, heck with the beginnings and all that. I'm just going to focus on the Lawrence raid and just do a really deep dive into that. So that was my first one. And then I thought, okay, I've got all this other notes, and I'm not going to be able to sleep at night if I don't, you know, bring this, you know, put this into a book. So I did that.
You know, I have to say, I don't normally take time out of I do genealogy, and I have several clients, and I spend a lot of time working on their family history. So traditionally, I never took time out of my life to read a book until Matt Holmes came along, and then Ben Walker, who asked me to do the same thing I'm doing for you, which is marketing, not marketing, but getting the book out for you and for them. And then I start reading these books, and I realized I was missing a part of my life. I mean, I have all these books over here that I accumulated. Some were free, some I bought. I was going to use for research, but I never go back to them. But then I started reading these books, and then you came along, and I got the Quantrill's Ray and Lawrence Revisit the Evidence, and the way it's written, it's like I'm watching a movie. I've read some books, like when I was in school, so forth, where there was so much detail, right? They're almost like micromanaged the battles, step by step. How many were here? How many were there? How they far they were, and it became just a mishmash of information that I really wasn't enjoying, and I have to enjoy something to pursue it. And the way your books are written, it's like I'm watching a movie. It puts out some heart, some emotion. I love the way you use word Yankee and so forth to represent the North. You also include pictures, maps, your resources. I love the way at the bottom you have where you and annotate where you got that information from to write that page. So I know the information is accurate. I know it's coming from somewhere, not unlike some books where you read it and you hope that what you're reading is actual and factual. And so thank you for that, because that makes to me a very educational, very enjoyable book. And that's why the first book, I took 5 days to read it. The second one here, which is actually your volume one, I hate to say it, but I just finished it up yesterday. But and the reason why is I read it slower, because I read a couple of pages and I'll go back to my genealogy and I read a couple more pages. But again, I'm a guy that needs to see pictures and so forth to keep me in interest, and you have them, and you also explained what the picture represents. It's just a well-written book, and I really do appreciate the format of it. Like, you got your chapter broken down. In the back of the book, you have your references. I did, just so you know, I did at the back of the one book. I think it was this one here. It actually has like a link to go to get some free stuff, and I think the link's broken because it didn't work for me. I like the way you have, uh, some advertisers in the back, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll tell you if it's okay, I'll share something with you. I keep alluding back to graduate school, but I learned well, I learned a lot about gender, race, and class, and I guess what I want to just briefly talk about is how that affects, because that's just all wokeism, and it's been around for quite a long time. But anyway, a classmate of mine in graduate school. He went on to get his PhD, and he's teaching at Penn State, I believe. Man, he's written a book, and so I guess we're kind of competing. I've presented with him, and but he went on, like I said, he went on to get his PhD. But it's kind of like this is the material that I've put out, and I want to just share just two things with you about what he, some of the information that he has put out, and how that gender, race, and class and wokeism has affected. So here's what the topic here is: was Quantrill a good school teacher? Okay, so like I say, I think I can say I think I've read about everything. Okay, so he was a good teacher, and if you get into Conley's book, you can see quotes of his former pupils that say, "Man, he was he was really good." We didn't know what side he was on and all that. So anyway, there's no question he was a good school teacher, and even his boss said he was a great school teacher. But here's what my friend wrote, my woke friend. Exactly what William's students meant by good teacher warrants a bit of exploration. Okay, so then he goes on to just use a comparison, and his comparison is Ichabod Crane. Okay, so he says Ichabod Crane was the central character of the legend of Sleepy Hollow. The schoolmaster, as seen in Crane, tended to be authoritarian and strict disciplinarian. He was violent. Indeed, a birch or hickory rod was the schoolmaster's tool for maintaining order. And then he concludes by saying, in other words, he beat his students, and this was he being Ichabod Crane. In other words, Crane beat his students, and this was normal behavior for the teacher in the 1800s. Perhaps William was equally violent. Uh, where'd you get that from? Nowhere. Made it up. Here's the last one. Um, so we know that in 1860, I think it was 60, he helped a guy by the last name of Gill, Mark Gill, escort his slaves to Texas. So I don't know how they were transported. Most slaves just, you put them in a wagon, in the back of a wagon, get a team of horses, and you're on your way. And Quantrill was probably riding a horse behind and just making sure that that they got there. Oh, I'm on the wrong page. Oh, my God. Oh, that's okay. That's okay. I'll end with this one. Anyway, he says that he was a slave driver. Okay. Well, there's no evidence of that. There's no evidence that he had a whip in his hand and he was, But that's what he wants you to believe, having no evidence of that at all. Now, last, he thinks that Quantrill was a homosexual. Yeah. Whoa, where'd that come from? And so he reads here, or he writes here, for men accustomed to living and sleeping with one another out on the trail, this tale could allude to an unwelcome sexual advance, something more amorous than murderous. An older boy, that being Quantrill, taking advantage of a younger boy, the two pulling and pushing each other under the cover of a blanket. A boy surprising his unsuspecting bedfellow by an attempt to poke with his dagger, which is I guess he's using that as a phallic symbol, or a young man trying to defend himself against the unwanted thrusts of an older man. There are too many salacious implications to ignore. That's what you get when you get your PhD in history at Mizzou with woke teachers. And it's actually despicable.
It is because to those of the South, William Quantrill is a hero. Uh, I was when I did this afternoon, I did a prelude to the tonight's broadcast, primarily just to check the audio and video for clarity and echoes. And by the way, how do we sound so far? Any echoes on your end?
No.
Good. Um, I think we found the problem, and I'll explain to you after the show what we found. Something stupid on my end, but uh, I was playing the song that was written about his marriage to this young lady, and it's a love song about her and him, and she knew what his part was with the war, and she knew about the men he rode with, but for some reason she fell deeply in love with this man, and he fell deeply in love with her, and they had love and respect and loved each other, and they eventually got married. And when I was doing the broadcast, and the song ended, I was brought to emotion. I said, you know, I don't know how I'm supposed to feel. I mean, we know what he did. I mean, he was a soldier. He was a ranger of sort, where he didn't really have anyone above him giving him orders what to do, and he fought, and he had unique ways of getting around the laws and so forth, as far as military rules of engagement. But I felt for the guy. Here he's doing his thing to save his home state and the people around him. He was doing it for the South, for independence, and then he gets caught and he gets killed. And I felt bad for him. I really did. It's like, they're only married like 5 months. I don't. I dig deeper. I don't, did he have kids?
Not recorded, although there's I've met two people who say they are related to Quantrill, and one of them lives in Australia, believe it or not. So, but I don't know. When they call me and tell me that, I'm just like, man, that's cool. I mean, I don't know, but he never had any kids, so.
I guess the only way to find out. I mean, well, we're going to go into this next topic, and then I'm going to play the one song, like I mentioned. Then we'll talk some more about the books, about the content of the book. When he was killed and his body was buried, um, I believe we were talking earlier. You said that William Quantrill's mom wanted the body brought back to her so she could bury him and be closer to him. So she reached out to what she thought was a friend to go and get his body and bring the body back. But I guess enough time had transpired. There wasn't much left of the outer part of his body. There was his bones and so forth. And this horrendous person took some of the bones for himself. And I want you to explain to them what happened. So his body, as last I read and saw, is actually buried. Parts of his body are actually buried in 3 different locations around our country.
One, two, yeah, 3. Um, right. So after he passed away, he was initially buried in Louisville, and it was in a Catholic cemetery. I don't know if it's totally Catholic right now, but I think it was called Portland Cemetery in Louisville. And it was an unmarked grave because they were afraid that people who hated him would dig him up and do stuff with his body. So anyway, it was an unmarked grave. And then W. Scott, supposedly Quantrill's friend, got with his mother, Caroline Quantrill, and they went to Louisville and they disinterred the body. And it went to Dover Canal, but it's just Dover now, Ohio, and he was buried there. However, before the remains were buried, W. Scott stole a bunch of his bones in hopes that he could sell them later on, which he did successfully. So years down the road, Scott contacted the Kansas State Historical Society, William Conley again, and he said, how much will you give me for the bones? So I don't know how much it was, but anyway, the bones went to Kansas State Historical Society, and Conley put it in a glass display for years and years and years. And then when the issue about Native American bones need to be buried and not displayed, then one of our Confederate leaders contacted the Kansas State Historical Society and said, you need to give up Quantrill's bones too. And so they did, and we had another funeral for him in Higginsville Confederate Cemetery in Missouri. And we had a Catholic priest talk, and then we had a coffin made for him. And so I don't, there's people who don't believe that anything in that casket is his, but so there's dispute as to whether those are actually Quantrill's remains or not. But whoever they are, whether it's him or somebody else, they finally are at peace. His gravestone is marked, and the SCV poured a whole bunch of concrete on top of his coffin so that nobody could break in and steal it again.
One of my side topics I always like to look at is life after death. And I'll see these videos of these people who go out into cemeteries and they have all these devices and so forth that's supposed to be able to pick up the spirits of the people buried there and have a conversation. I can only imagine, in reality, if that's, if that is 100%, true, the conversation that he would have, parts of him in 3 different cemeteries, asking where the rest of his body is and so forth. I just think it's disgusting that someone would try to make money off of someone's, dead son. Now, I don't believe I saw anywhere in your books, at least not yet. He had no siblings.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So wouldn't there be obviously there'd be descendants of the siblings? Could someone, hey, but let's make sure these bones are actually his and do a DNA sample?
It'd be too late for that, unless they want to get a jackhammer.
Oh yeah, well yeah.
Okay, but the people in Dover, I have a letter from the people in Dover where he was buried, and then I have a letter from the Kansas State Historical Society also. It's in one of my books, but neither one of those people believe that it's Quantrill, and I think the people at Kansas State said that they had a forensic anthropologist look at the bones and said, this comes from a much younger person, and so I don't know. But anyway, I did happen to come across. Yeah, so he had. Okay. His siblings were Mary Ellen, Franklin McLindley, Cornelia Thompson, and Clark, and Archibald. So a total of 8 kids. That would include William Clark Quantrill.
Wow. So we are joined by 2 people so far. Actually 9. I'm sorry, 9. Facebook can show you how many are watching, but there's no comments yet. But one of the persons that is watching is Matt Holmes, who is a friend of mine. He is the author of 8 books, which I'll be doing next month. I'll be doing a broadcast about his newest endeavor, which essentially is a book about all the officers that came from various countries to fight in the War of Independence. So he has a huge project. So he's watching, and 8 others. I don't know who the other 8 others are. But guys, if you're watching, if you have questions for my guest, please type in the questions. I see Ann Peppers is here. Thank you, Ann, for joining us. If you have any questions for the author about the content of these books or why he wrote it or whatever, please type your questions, and he'd be more than happy to answer them for you. So I want to play the one song I didn't get a chance to play last time, and there's my cat again. Um, she loves Daddy, so wherever Daddy is, that's where you find her. That's Sonata. She's a rescue from outdoors. But I want to play this one song. It's a video, and it has like a little life history about him in the song. I just get my mouse, see where it's supposed to be. There it is. Here we go. Yeah. That is the wrong one. I apologize for that, folks. I don't want that one. I want... Go back. I want this one. Yeah, you.
Comrades up, the moon's in the west, and the hounds of old Penick will find out our nest. We must be gone ere the dawning of day. The Quantrill they seek shall be far, far away. Their toils after us shall ever be vain. Let them scout through the brush and scour the plain. We'll pass through their midst in the dead of the night. We are lions in combat and eagles in flight. Rouse my brave boys up and away. Press hard on the foe ere the dawning of day. Look well to your steeds, so gallant in chase. May they never give or till they win in the race.
When old Penick is weary and the chase given o'er, we'll pass through their midst and we'll bathe in their gore.
We'll come as a thunderbolt comes from the cloud. We'll smite the oppressor and humble the proud. You shall escape us, and you shall be spared, for keen is our saber, in vengeance 'tis bared. For none are so strong, so mighty in fight, as the warrior who battles for our southern right. Rouse my brave boys up and away. Press hard on the foe ere the dawning of day. Look well to your steeds, so gallant in chase. May they never give or till they win in the race. Though the bushes are home, the green sod our bed, our drink from the river, and roots for our bread.
We pine not for more, we bow not the head, for freedom is ever within the greenwood.
Tyrants shan't conquer, and betters shan't bind, for true are our rifles, for steeds like the wind. We'll sheathe not the sword, we'll draw not the
I love that song, especially the two singers. Uh, the one guy that's singing, his voice reminds me of the older guy with the beard. He would play guitar, and he sung this music to the snowman. I can't think of his name. Anyways, that's what his voice sounds like. I especially love that really deep voice. We've been joined by two other people. I mentioned Aunt Peppers, Morris Lee Myers, and someone else who has In the Dark. Morris, open the disclosure, was a client of mine for a couple of months. I actually discovered that he is third generation from a slave. And I actually found a narrative of a reporter went out talking to slaves and came across him and asked some questions about his life as a slave, and which astonished Morris. And it was from that broadcast that Matt Holmes found me and asked me to do the broadcast about his books. Um, Morris is a black man, and he is part of the SCV. He has a uniform. He has the flag. He loves the South. He is the reason why people on the left don't understand that the blacks don't hate the South. They don't hate that flag, especially with him being a descendant of a slave. And in fact, his great great grandfather, once they were freed, he and the other slaves decided to stay with their master because at that point the master was sick and bedridden. So they stayed and took care of his plantation. They took care of him and his wife until to the end. So it just goes to show that the narrative isn't always the way the left wants you to see it. Um, uh, I'm sorry, I just got a message from someone. Okay. Barbara Amons has just joined us. And she's also a good follower of mine. Every time I pop up on a live feed, she's usually close behind. So the song again, it's a narrative of his life. It's not a glorification of what he did as a soldier. When I was seeing the pictures of the reunion, I'm going to assume that these were the guys who were part of his army who rode with him in combat. They survived the war, which kind of surprised me because I'm at the point, or I just finished at the point in Volume 1 where the Union military has decided that because of how William Quantrill and his men don't fight under the normal standards of a military man, that they are not truly military soldiers, and therefore not allowed to have the same respect as a soldier who was caught as a prisoner in combat. So they were put to death. So I'm surprised to see so many have survived. Would you know the reason why for that?
Hang on.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just, yeah. So here's the deal. There's a Lieber Code, which says is kind of the rules of civilized warfare. And Lieber wrote that if a person is a member of the army, and they surrender, then they should be treated as prisoners of war. Okay, so that means you have to have a commission. So I have a copy of Quantrill's commission. I don't have it in front of me, obviously, but it's in the book, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a Confederate officer, as were a lot of other folks. But the Union just kind of put it aside. Well, to us, I mean, what's the definition of guerrilla warfare? Okay. Well, you don't meet people in the open field, face to face. It means that you're behind enemy lines. It means that you have a much smaller group, and it's a hit and run type of group. That's what you do. That's what the Vietnamese did. That's what the Iraqis did. That's what the Afghanistan's did.
Well,
Anyway,
to some degree, that's what we did.
yeah,
We were first fighting for our rights from England. I mean, I can never understand, and I still would love to have someone tell me the reasons why. Uh, but the British, obviously they had, initially more soldiers, but they would line up, 3 or 4 deep, and they walk out into open fields, and it's like, okay, you shoot first. Half a dozen guys go down, and they pull up their guns, and they shoot, and then some other guys go down, and they go up a little bit. It's like, I guess it's a matter of whoever had more soldiers at the end of that battle won the battle. The Americans finally say, that's nuts. This hide behind rocks,
yeah,
hide behind fences. This climb trees, and so it's essentially you can say that's guerrilla warfare. But when I was reading this book, how the one Quantrill's men was shot close to his heart, like I think so, 1.5 inches from his heart, and his body was given back to his family. He was shot behind his ear, and the gun was right up against his skull because there was gunpowder burn on his skin. So they executed him.
right.
Um,
So, one of the things that, again, is hypocrisy. When you start reading these books, the woke authors will say, well, guerrilla warfare is the worst kind of warfare. Those people don't deserve to be alive and all that. And they were the only ones. It was the South that, they had all the guerrillas. Well, guess what? Union guerrillas, a whole book of it, you hypocrites. Union guerrillas. They did the same damn thing.
well, not only that, when I was doing this one broadcast, I forget what the topic was. It goes back a couple of years, but my research was brought in about Sherman's march, and his idea was to punish the crap not just out of these soldiers, but the men, women, children, and dogs, and so forth. Kill them all, burn down every town, every city, all the way to the ocean. But what made it really bad was at the end of his troop, Sherman's troop, he had a gang of ruffians who could do whatever they want and not be punished. So they went in, they were raping, they were looting, they were burning what was left that wasn't burned, and they could do it knowing that they were protected by the commanding officer. And Michael Hampton just joined us. And no problem, Michael. I'll take care of it for you. Michael Hampton is a client of mine. Morris Myers says the Cherokees, they were a beast. Yeah, because when soldiers are fighting other soldiers, if they are, I was reading, Quantrill and his men escaped many different traps that were sent, and like I said, guys, you gotta get his books because it's like looking at a movie, and I'm so excited. I was cheering for him. Here his men are. They're going out. They know the Union soldiers are out there, and they split their men up. And the Union soldiers have these new rifles. They're long-range rifles, and all he and his guys have are pistols. And they're getting shot at a much longer distance. And he told his men, charge out in the open. And they did, because they had to get closer because all they had were pistols. And through that, they only lost 2 men, and the Union soldiers lost more. Or like in the one chapter where Quantrill, a good portion of his men were inside his house, and the Union soldiers found them and set fire to the house. And the way you describe it is like, I love the way you write, Guy. You're talking about the house is on fire. The men are in there say, what the hell are we going to do, guys? My words, not his. And he waited to the bitter end And I'm thinking to myself, God, I'm expecting to see, his men burned alive, but he said, guys, I'm going to throw the door open. We're going to go with the shotguns first. When the shotguns go off, just run high hell, right? And again, my words, not the author's. And that's what they did. They threw the door open. They shot soft blast. The Union soldiers kind of like separated. What the hell's going on? And his men escaped, just burning the house. I was like, yeah, that's what you got to do. Yeah. It's exciting, guys. I mean, you don't have to be a lover of history or about the war. Just a good, down the right writing. And again, it's not written like a textbook. It's written like a book you want to read. And I'm just so excited about it. I can't wait to get to volume 2. God, where am I? I lost. I got excited there for a minute. Whew, it's hot. Um, I had some other questions I was going to ask you about the content of the book. Um, uh, you must have boxes and boxes where your material is that you use to reference your books, or is there anything you have stored in a computer?
Both. I usually have hard copies of notes because back in 1978 I didn't have a computer, so I just kind of had to do it. But yeah, I got it, and I think I'm going to before I pass on to the father or to the mother, whoever it is up there. Um, I'm going to donate those to the headquarters of the Sons of Confederate Veterans, and I say that because uh, I just don't trust libraries. The Jackson County, Missouri library has taken a lot of Confederate slash rebel stuff and deep sixed it, and where before we could see it, for some reason they can't find it anymore. So I don't trust them with my material. So
Um, here's just a thought. Um, uh, to be honest with you, uh, I think I think William Clark Contrill's story has to continue in a certain degree. We know from your book that he was a teacher. Okay, um, it would be great to see a book, and if you can't, perhaps reach out to Matt Holmes. He loves writing books, but a book about his life before the military. Growing up as a little boy. What his family life was like. Did he go to school? How far into the education system did he go? Did he have a girlfriend? As a teacher, what school did he teach? Something like that. And then, you know, what made him decide to fight, but not to become a regular soldier in the military, but more of a guerrilla, uh, uh, something like that. I would love to see like a, it's like Ben Walker. He's another guy who I promoted his book. He wrote a book about a Confederate sergeant, but it's a fictional, not true book. Is that what it's fictional, nonfiction? Always get those terms mixed up. But he wrote a book about a sergeant in the Confederate Army who got into witchcraft. His daughter got into witchcraft, and it's well written. And I said it would be great to see, like a volume 1. How did he get his powers? Why did he go into witchcraft? Then you had volume 2, is what I already read. And then volume 3, he's dead. His daughter was captured. Does she game? I'm the kind of guy. I got to see the big picture. And I would love to see if before you pass on, like a book. The life of William Quantrill before he was William Quantrill. Something like that.
right here, brother, page 33, volume 1. It's chapter 4, early life of Quantrill in Kansas, Utah, and Colorado. But it actually starts out as well. It talks about his family, that he had his um, his his grandfather was a hero during the War of 1812. Yeah, the truth about Quantrill's family background, which starts on page 9, and it goes up to his father. Um, so anyway, yeah,
Well, yeah, okay, yeah, okay. I remember seeing that. You're right. That's in there. Um, yeah, actually, it has. Yeah, it has a brother, sister, 8 children. Um, I, I, I just think that we need to see more. To explode that out more. But that's up to you. I can't tell you what to do. But I'm kind of I got to see the big picture. It's like when I do genealogy and I learned something new about one of my clients' ancestors. Like, oh crap, look at that! And then you
yeah.
find out more about them. Um, um,
Well, there were some people in Canal Dover who did not like William Quantrill, W. Scott being one. But it will tell you in this book that there was many more people who thought they were upstanding people. And so it really comes down to the Beeson family and Scott's family and W. Scott, who decided that they were going to throw all the dirt they possibly could on this family. Whereas if you talk to other people in the community, they have nothing but nice things to say about them. So that was there. Again, that's being cherry picked, and from all the information I can get, just from quotes, that they were a good family.
Michael Hampton has a question for you. He says,
Yeah.
"Do you have in-depth material or any material as far as the Confederate soldiers seceding at Secession Hill in Abbeville, South Carolina?"
No,
He said no, Michael.
sorry.
Be honest with you, I have no idea what he's talking about that. What's that concerning? Now, Michael, if you could ask the question again in a little more detail, he's not understanding your question. So I do have a video. It's 16 minutes long, and I'm not sure if I want to play the entire thing, guys. Especially those of you who are actually here. This question goes out to everyone who is watching. Right now, we have 11 people watching. I have a video that Colonel Russ from Family Tree Nuts. He's a genealogist. He's also a retired Marine. He does videos, and he did a video of William Quantrill. And after I read, what I call it Volume 3, this one here, I saw his video, and it's almost like Colonel Ross read his book and did a video about it, because it's step by step. Everything that's in the book, he has in his video. It's 16 minutes long. And it's well produced. I'll start playing it. If you guys want to watch all 16 minutes, if Chris wants to watch all 16 minutes, I'll let it play out. But I do have the Colonel's permission to use any of his videos, because he and I are friends. We go back a few years. So he gave me permission to use this. So Facebook, I do have permission to use this video. Just gotta do is go back to where it was.
And this is in regard to Kentucky, to Quantrill's expedition in Kentucky and his death at Taylorsville.
Correct. It talks about who he is. I think the guy that he's talking to in the video, he's somehow related. But he talks about his fights. He talks about that he also would go and recapture slaves and send them back for the money. It talks about his body being buried in 3 different places. So it follows very close to what you have.
This is where the ruthless Confederate guerrilla, Captain William Quantrill, the commander of the infamous Quantrill's Raiders, met his final demise. Hey everybody, this is Colonel Carson with Family Tree Nuts, and I'm in Spencer County, Kentucky, just a little bit south of Taylorsville, and I'm very near the location where William Quantrill was mortally wounded and captured. And by the way, if you like these types of videos, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and click that little bell so you get notifications as to when we post new videos. I've got a special guest with me today. Sir, would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Davis Downs.
And Mr. Downs, what is your connection, what is your interest with Captain Quantrill in this story?
Well, I'm a lifelong resident of Spencer County, Kentucky, and the historical marker that was dedicated in 1957, and I was in the 7th grade and had written a book report on Quantrill because he was killed or shot 1.5 miles from where my current residence.
Wow.
So I was asked to participate in the dedication along with Joe Creason, who was a writer for the Louisville Courier Journal, and at the dedication when the sign was put at Wakefield, Kentucky.
Down in Wakefield, yeah. You were this little community, little Mapdoc community is south of Taylorsville there.
Right, and it was during the Civil War, it was a place that contained a lot of Southern sympathizers. And as a result of that, that's one of the reasons that Quantrill and his men had come in from Missouri and located here in this area. They were conducting raids around and getting horses. They come in and got better horses. But they knew that Quantrill and his men would probably have a safe haven in this area because they had relatives here and once again were Southern sympathizers.
Really cool, really cool. So, William Quantrill, who is that guy? Tell me a little bit about him.
He was born on July the 31st of 1837 in Canal, Dover, now simply Dover, Ohio.
Yeah, it used to be called Canal Dover, now it's just Dover, Ohio, which is a little bit east of Columbus, a little bit north of that.
And his father was the principal at the high school that William graduated when he was 16 years old.
So he was a high school graduate, but he kind of bounced around. He had a little bit of a rough younger years, didn't he?
He bounced around and at various jobs, and even had for a while was a teacher.
Yeah, so he taught school in a couple different states, I think, from Kansas to Illinois, Indiana, I think, maybe even Kentucky for a bit.
I believe that's correct.
So, you know, he's known for his Confederate service, but he didn't start out that way, did he?
No, he didn't. At one time, he supported the abolitionist movement, but as time went by, around 1860, that all changed.
So, wow, he started out as an abolitionist, but then things changed pretty quick.
And then wound up riding with a group that was capturing slaves.
Wow, yeah, escaped slaves.
Escaped slaves and turned them back to their owners, and they were getting, of course, remunerated for that.
Yeah, get a bounty for that, and I think that you know, when you fall on hard times, you have to do what you can to make the money that you can. So it's funny how abolitionist turns to a fugitive slave catcher.
That's correct.
And in 1861, he ended up in Texas, where he joined up with Joel B. Mays, who was half Cherokee and half Scots-Irish. And when he teamed up with Mays and his Confederates, actually the 1st Cherokee Regiment, that's where he learned the guerrilla tactics and of swift and brutal attacks. Did you know that there was Cherokee Confederate units?
No, I did not.
Especially out of Texas.
I did not.
Yeah, that's something that's very unwell known. A year later, he returned home to build his own unit, which would be known as Quantrill's Raiders. His unit was comprised of men like William Bloody Bill Anderson, Cole Younger, as well as Frank and Jesse James.
That's correct.
And I think you said you had some family that rode with them too, didn't you?
My great-grandmother was Rhoda Jane Pence, who was a cousin of Bud and Donnie Pence. And that's one reason that Quantrill's Raiders finally wound up here in Wakefield, because they knew that they had people who were Southern sympathizers here.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. So I guess you could say that your ancestors were Confederate?
Yes.
Okay, yes, nothing wrong with that. Yeah, and Quantrill's Raiders terrorized all over Kansas, Missouri, and Texas, where they raided supplies and engaged with Union troops. They looted and burnt cities, terrorized citizens, and they killed many people. And I think you were telling me a story about Lawrence, Kansas.
Lawrence, Kansas, in August the 31st of 1863, they raided Lawrence, Kansas and killed 150 men and boys. They spared women, but they took a total of about 150 men and boys there.
Wow. 150 men, and the boys too, I guess.
And the boys too. There was reports that wives would lay down on top of their husbands, pleading for their lives, and they would just stick their Colt 1851 six-shooters under the women and shoot the husbands right under the women.
Wow, these guys were some bad dudes, weren't they?
Bloody Bill Anderson, they didn't call him Bloody Bill for nothing.
You know, and that's what's crazy about it is you and I were talking before the video about how so many people idolize these guys today, right?
They still do. There are actually clubs in Germany that are called Quantrill clubs.
Wow, Quantrill Club in Germany, how about that? Yeah, he's definitely an infamous guy and somebody that's quite
folks, I just took notice of the time, and the video is only halfway through. But essentially, the first part of this, you heard me saying he was a teacher, which we touched on here with the author. He would go and capture slaves and take them back to their masters to get paid. We touched on that as well, and that's also in the book. I was getting a little bit, I have not yet seen the whole video, but I was getting a little bit of the historian. I'm not sure if he was trying to say that he was a bad dude that he killed 150 men and boys. I wish he would have given more detail as to why, the boys, because in your book, correct me if I'm wrong, you indicate that the only time he would kill the boys is if they had guns and were participating in the defense of the town, correct?
Okay, so in this book, what really happened? Okay, so in Appendix 2, when he was referring that they killed 150, I don't know, men, women, children, whatever, all that's been out there. But anyway, I spent a few years and I cross-referenced every name that's on the innocent victim list. I cross-referenced them and I found over 60 who had previous military or militia associations. So I would say that that's probably not right. He did kill them, but they weren't innocent.
Yeah, what he's saying, folks, is that in the appendixes, he has a list of all the people who were killed, and it references that they had military connections
Right.
to the Union Army. So, yeah, 150. Don't forget, too, guys. As a young male, 15 and older, you could join the military. And that's what some of this here says. Zach Rayla, he just joined us towards here in. He asked a question of you, sir. He says, I did Zach's family history. He said that his wife is from Missouri. Please ask you if Quantrill was ever associated with Chariton County, Missouri.
Not that I know of.
Okay. So, Zach, as far as his information and research shows that Quantrill was not associated with Chariton County, Missouri. May I quick ask, Zach, why you're asking about that? And this is going to go back over and reintroduce everybody. We have Ann Peppers, Morris Lee Myers. We have Barbara Amons, Morris Lee Myers. We have Michael Hampton, Zach Rayla, and a whole bunch of people who don't want to be identified. So we've got a good turnout tonight. Folks, I'm going to bring it to an end here. I try to make these broadcasts at least an hour long. I'm not sure, first off, mindful of Chris's time, but also the fact that sometimes I think broadcasts of this nature if it goes too long in the tooth, it kind of becomes like a classroom, and people kind of get bored and tired, and turn the channel. So I like to try and keep it to an hour. Uh, Chris, before we say goodbye to everybody, is there anything else? Let me just first go back over the books here, guys. All his books are now available on Amazon, and they're not that expensive. He has in paperback, he has in hardback. I like the paperback myself better, but he has William Quantrill. Oops, past my name. This is volume 1. What history doesn't want you to know. Volume 2 is William Quantrill, years 1863 to 1865. And what I'm calling volume 3 is what really happened on the raid in Lawrence, Kansas. 2 very good books. I can't wait to now start reading the third book. Well, to me, it's the third book. It's volume 2. And then after we get that one done, if Chris still wants to continue to broadcast, I think I'm going to go with this one here next, which is Suppressed Evidence. It's the evidence of William Quantrill. It's a very thin book, so it's only take me a couple of days to read. This is where the evidence is. So he's done his due diligence to get information about his book. Now, this one here, you probably won't see me for at least 2 or 3 months. 350 pages. That's a good read. Again, a lot of pictures, a lot of documentation, a lot of history in here. It's sort of like if you were disabled, like I am, and you can't go to Lawrence to walk where Quantrill walked. Read the book, and you can actually, in your mind, walk step by step by step into the battle. Let's see. And he said, okay, so the reason why he's asking the question was that Zach's wife's family were first forced off their property and burned because they were Confederate sympathizers. So that happened a lot back in the day. I'm sorry, I assume it happens on both sides, but I don't understand why you would take it out on the women and children and burn their houses and their businesses. I like the fact that now, I'm a little off topic here, we have the ability to target just what we want to destroy or who we want to kill. So we've gotten a lot smarter in that respect. Um, any final words, Chris?
I think we've covered it really well, and I would love to come back and talk about Volume 2 whenever you want me to come back.
I'm thinking it'll probably be a week and a half, but I'll let you know.
Okay.
I'd love to do that. This one off-ball question for you. I'm a big believer in this is definitely off topic, guys, but trying to get other people's opinions. I'm a big believer in aliens from space, and I know there's a movie out. A lot of Congress people, senators are in it. A lot of professionals, scientists, military people, with all this evidence, video, and so forth. And they're saying that Congress is saying that this is a year that we're going to actually see these guys come back for reasons that they won't tell us. What is your take on aliens from another planet? Coming from your educated background, your college degree, obviously more educated than I am. What's your take?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm pretty long in the tooth, and ever since I've been around, I've heard about it. So, yeah, I think there's a great possibility that they do exist. I don't have any problem talking about it and saying that I think there's some really good evidence that there is some extraterrestrial life out there. Yeah.
I believe, and I'm going to end with this. I saw a video that Elon Musk actually was an interview, and he indicated that this year, 2026, he was going to start launching his ships to Mars to see if they can successfully land on the surface. And if they do, then next year he's going to send his rockets, his spacecraft with his robots in it to start building the colony for the third year where actual living people go. That might be what triggers an actual visit, because now we're actually going out into space and we're going into their territory. And let's face it, folks, we're not normally a very peaceful people. I mean, I don't think, when I do my ancestry and, the folks come here for a new life, we're always at war with someone or something. And I think that's what's going to trigger an actual visit. And I know it's off topic, but that's another big thing I love to talk about. Chris, it was great having you here. Folks, great interaction from you guys. Please share this video out to all your friends, your groups. Get the word out. Please, if nothing else, buy one of his books and get the enjoyment out of reading his book like I did. Again, I love it. It's like watching a movie. It's not boring. It's not tedious. It's not a textbook. It's been researched, and I think you'll really enjoy it. So, Chris, thank you for being here tonight, and I'm going to remove you from the scene. Take care.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's been my honor.
Great. My honor as well, sir. And folks, that brings this broadcast to an end. Again, I want to say thank you to everyone who's here. Thank you to the people who didn't make any comments. And Peppers, always good to see you. Morsley Myers, thank you for watching. Guy, I miss you. We should talk more. I saw you're in a new apartment. You're enjoying life. I'm so happy to see that. Barbara Amons, thank you for being here. You must have me on alert so that when I go live, I'm alive. Michael Hampton, great seeing you. I'll bring your tree back to life. It won't take but a couple of minutes, and I'll send out the invoice. And whenever you're ready, we'll get back working on your family history. Zach, again, thanks for being here. Thank you for interacting with Chris, my friend, my author. And it's been a great opportunity to share his love for the South and for the military personnel who fought for the independence of the South. And who knows, it may still yet happen. Take care, my friends. Good night.